My name is Rita Wiebe, and welcome to our next in the episodes of Simple Synergy. Now, Simple Synergy is basically people working together towards a common goal. Today, we caught up with a couple of the guys from the BC Men's Shed Association, namely from Vernon, basically next door. They're trying to inspire the people from Kamloops to perhaps get a men's shed going. So with my guests here, we've got Ray Verlich and David Friesen to talk about the men's shed. So either or, which one of you would like to start off with talking about the philosophy of the sheds and how they got started?
Well, we can tell you a little bit about how Vernon Shed got started, and actually Ray's a founder, so he knows about those very, very first meetings. I came on the scene a little later, met Ray, and got involved with some of the early meetings as well. And it was just guys sitting around a table talking about what a men's shed is. I had no idea at the time. Ray had done a little bit of research with a couple of guys, and Ray, that was kind of an interesting start to it. And then three guys, right?
Mm-hmm. So Ray, what are your thoughts on that right from the get-go?
Word of mouth is such an effective communication method. So we met as two couples up at a ski hill, and they were cross-country skiing, and we were there too. And one part of the conversation led to another, and what are you doing as a retired guy is inevitably a backhanded question. And that's when the discussion of men's shed came up. I started by probably following a path that a lot of retired guys follow inadvertently. The first thing you do is say goodbye to everybody you worked with, which is about 30% of your life's contacts. And then all the promises to stay in touch don't materialize, as we all know. And then similar to what you and Bill are doing is you do something crazy like get up and move, either for better weather or family or recreation. And you say goodbye to everybody else you know. And then what happens is you get to the new location and you find out that everybody you're meeting has mostly got their circle of friends already and they weren't actively looking for more. And it can be lonelier than you thought. So I had the good fortune to be introduced to a guy who shared a passion for sailing, and the next thing you know, we were in his garage building a nesting dinghy together. Mm. When you spend 100 hours with somebody, you wind up talking about stuff, and that's part of what Men's Shed does. And during that process, we were talking about how we could give back to our respective communities and have a more effective fourth quarter. Mm. And he had indicated that his dad hadn't done very well in that category, and his dad had died early. And then we happened to hear a radio piece, kind of like we're doing today, talking about men's sheds, and phoned him up and said, I think I just found the umbrella for us to come under.
Cool. So, with that, an example of a few of the different men's sheds around the province. Now, my understanding is each one is a different culture, sort of reflecting the community that they come from. And also that you have a lot of information on the BC Men's Shed website. Can either one of you talk a little bit about what kind of information you have and what kind of sheds there are around the province and what might benefit Kamloops?
Right. Well, the Men's Shed Association BC website has a place for each shed to put information. I'm not sure it's exactly up to date, but it's something that's growing. And Ray could talk a little bit about the Men's Shed Canada website, which is going to provide a broader umbrella in terms of information for startup men's sheds and information that people would need.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and you're right, Rita. Each shed has its own signature. The joke around the world is, and there's about 3,000 sheds around the world now, if you've been to one men's shed, you've been to one. And so if there's an appetite and an enthusiasm to start a shed here in Kamloops now, that is going to be a unique shed. So Vernon has had the good fortune of casting a vision and having people buy into it. And as a result, we have a facility, we have a website with a portal for 100 men to stay in touch with each other. The Men's Shed Canada website is chock full of resources on how to start a shed, what is a shed, various avenues of research, and And I know firsthand that that's going to be expanded soon so that every man in Canada who wants a shed will be able to interact with all the other men. And that's going to be a very powerful website.
We need to stress too that Men's Shed is not kind of a monolithic organization top down. Some sheds don't even belong to the provincial organization, although we're encouraging them to. And each shed is unique, as Ray has mentioned, and takes its own path, but sort of comes under that loose umbrella of a men's shed.
Right. So my understanding is that, you know, you're sort of reliant on resources in the community, whatever that may be. Some groups start out in somebody's basement, some in a garage. Some fortunate like you guys. I mean, you've got a beautiful cement shed there in Vernon, and you've got nice white floor and the whole bit. Like, you know, you must have either had a whole lot of money to do that, or people were donating stuff to help you to do it, and all those machines. And tell me about that.
We started meeting in a rented room at a building called People Place, which is a nonprofit building to house local nonprofits, and they gave us space to start seeing how much interest there was, kind of like we're doing today. And after several meetings there, we bumped into a couple who were really community-minded, who gave us the equivalent of a double oversized garage at a storage facility with no heat and no running water. And we started meeting there, and men just kept coming. We were buried in the back corner, and they would find us, 23 guys crammed into a double garage having coffee. And so we readily identified that the need was there. Once we became more freestanding and self-governing, we were able to cast a vision that people could identify with. And then once you can do that, resources started flowing, and we had the great fortune of meeting a philanthropist couple, and he could see the vision and he wanted to fuel it. And so his name is Jim Popowich, and his dear wife Laverne have big hearts for their community. I'm sure there's people like that here in Kamloops.
So what, Vernon is basically a next door neighbor of Kamloops. Like, what kind of things might you consider seeing for Kamloops, or, you know, do we have the population in Kamloops here to sustain it? And, you know, just what are some of your thoughts on that?
I think it really boils down to a group of guys getting together and who really want to spend some time with one another and see something happen, and look at the possibilities. Like, we would have no idea what's available here in Kamloops in terms of a facility, but we didn't need one initially. We just met at a place where we could just sit down and talk and get interested and get motivated. And then it just seemed that things started to fall into place. One guy would say, well, I know about this place, or I know about that place, or I've got a connection here. And when that kind of synergy comes together and the guys start talking, all of a sudden things start happening. But I think the one thing for me that's really, really important is leadership. There's got to be a few really committed guys saying, we're going to make this happen no matter what. And there were times when we didn't know how it was going to happen. We needed a bigger space, and we didn't have two nickels to rub together. And we didn't know how that was going to happen. But we never lost the vision that this is, because me even meeting in that place that didn't have the amenities we needed, there still was kind of a magic that was happening. The guys were getting to know one another, and we were doing stuff together and problem solving, and it was exciting.
I know personally, I have been to the Vernon Men's Shed. I mean, they were nice enough to give me a tour around, even though I may not be of the proper gender. I don't know what to say about that, but I was very impressed with what you've got going on there. You've got this huge shop area. You've got a place for metalwork. You've got place for woodwork. You've got all kinds of dust systems. What if there was a people in Kamloops that the first thing they wanted to do was jump in their cars and carpool into Vernon and see your shed? Would that be okay?
Most welcome. When the doorbell rings at the shed, we open the door, stick out our hand to whoever's out there, and drag them in and welcome them.
Do you have coffee there?
We drink gallons of this stuff together.
This is a good thing. So,
By
I
the
think
way-
Bill would like that, first of all. I
Yeah.
know Bill would like the coffee.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the other thing that's interesting at the shed is that when the work goes on in the morning at 10:30, we shut the shop down.
Yeah, we flicker the lights in the shop and everybody gets dragged out.
And we have to sit down and visit. And for some guys, it's a bit of a stretch having to shut that machine down and come out and visit. But really neat things happen as friendships grow, information is shared, ideas pop out. It's an exciting time.
well,
It's a safe place for men to be with men.
right.
So I've had some remarkably candid and vulnerable discussions with men I had just barely met who walked in the door to see their way around. And you know, Rita, that they're there for a reason, right? And it's not because they wanted to bone up on the latest woodworking skills. It's usually a combination of reasons. And friendship is one of them, because loneliness is a powerful motivator. So sometimes you'll meet guys who come in and just want a tour and see the place, and then they sit down and have a coffee with you, and the conversations go in very candid directions, and it's quite wonderful because it's a place where some of those needs can get met.
Now, I've heard that the Vernon shed also accommodates something called a she shed, where it's the women that want to do something on a particular afternoon or something. It's your particular culture of your particular shed. This is what I've heard. Now, can either of you elaborate a little more on that?
Well, probably Ray has been most involved with that.
So some ladies expressed an interest in doing what we're doing, and probably one of the ways to encapsulate that is a dozen of them came and used our social room for a gathering, and I was the only guy there, so I was out in the shop by myself for about an hour. And after about an hour, I came back into the social room because, frankly, Rita, they were having way too much fun in there. And, you know, they were enjoying the conversation, and they looked at me and said, you know, we just want what you want. We'd just like to be together once in a while. And as that had then taken to the next level, we facilitated them renting some space from us, and then we donated some time to them because we had some grant money that David had secured. And most recently, they're heading down the road of incorporating and getting insurance. And we are training their trainers so that they can start meeting in the new year.
Wow.
And that's called Vernon She Shed.
Wow, that is that is pretty cool. So, I've heard that all these different sheds, that your shed in Vernon is sort of like the poster child, or so to say, in BC. Is that true, or what would you think?
Well, I mean, it's a wonderful place. We've got lots of men. We've got incredible tools, many projects going on and so on. But there's also the downside about becoming big, which is the amount of organization, the amount of leadership that's needed in different areas to keep that all going. So that would be the downside of it. It hasn't stopped us. Like, we really like what we've got, but it's more to maintain. It's higher costs and all of that. So I think it's a poster child more in terms of the fact that we can get over 100 men together doing stuff together. And I think any small shed could do that with 15 guys getting together and doing other kinds of activities. So I'd say it's a poster child in one way, it's not in another.
So do people have to pay some kind of a fee? Or that's one of my questions. Do people have to pay some kind of a fee? And my other question is it just for retired people, or is people from all ages welcome? So which one of you would like to comment on it?
All ages and 18 plus. And we're getting more younger guys now. And we've had to accommodate by opening up in the evening. So right now we have a Monday evening session for guys that are working and still want to be part of the shed. I think that's an area in which we're going to grow. I think as younger guys come in, they realize, hey, this works for us too. And Saturday, they can pop in on Saturdays or on Sunday. And yeah, so I think we'll draw a lot more younger men. We've had partnerships with a school where a group of students from a program that's oriented towards connecting with the community come into the shed and work on projects. So we have those kinds of connections, and I think that we'll see younger men coming. Right now, the majority of us are retired or post-career, and at various stages there. At one point, I think we said our average age was 72, but I think it's less than that now. It's coming down.
We currently charge about a quarter of what it costs to run the place. And we look to make up the balance in donations and output from our shop. We have to be careful not to become the kind of shop that's making items for production specifically to cover our overhead. I'm tired of that. So our current business model is to just watch and see what comes in. So you and I were talking earlier, and you mentioned, well, you know, I'm just floating downstream and watching, see what happens here. And that's what we've been doing for 6 years. What seems to be working in the shop is just an eclectic variety of projects, and men seem to like that. Every day is a bit different. The project at hand may not have to last that long because I've got appointments and family and travel ambitions and things. And so those types of in and out projects that are quite varied seem to work for our membership. We are a much richer place when we have a variety of ages. When we have those 15 and 16-year-olds in the shop with their teacher, boys and girls actually come in for that. And we have the working men on Monday nights. The shop is richer. We rub off on each other.
Well, I know we're running a little short on time here, but any final thoughts from either of you that, you know, maybe we've missed during our time together here?
Well, thinking about people being alone, men being alone, you know, especially post-career, you don't have the same motivation. You don't have that common focus that you do in your work. And I found that the shed provides that, you know, that there's this place to go to. I find my wife asking now and then, don't you have shed today? You know, and find a number of the guys like that. And it provides real motivation because at the shed, I can see some of the stuff that some of the guys are doing and think, man, I'd like to learn that. And that's the nice thing about sharing knowledge, skills, life experience that you don't get sitting alone at home. And it's really easy sitting alone at home to get in front of the TV, pull out the chips, and get into bad routines. So I think it's about wellness. It's about not having to be alone, about sharing.
Perfect. Ray, final thoughts on...
We listened to a TED Talk a little while ago that talked about the 4 stages of retirement. Initially exuberance, then a recognition of some loss, and then the process of trying to reinvent yourself, and then finally finding that amazing sweet spot that really works, that makes it a very gratifying time of life. And the speaker said invariably finding that involves giving back. And this is that place. If you'd like to have a great fourth quarter, give back. Join a shed, be enriched.
Sounds like a wonderful thing. So I would just like to thank my guests, Ray Vertage and David Friesen from Fernan. Just remind those people, those viewers in Kamloops, if you're at all interested or know of someone that is interested in maybe being part of a shed, go to the website. They have there is a central coordinator or somebody, a president, I guess, at the men's shed. Their website is www.bcmenshed.ca. So yeah, just have a look at that. You'll see everything. They do meet by Zoom as well. They have a toolkit there. If anybody, even if they know of a community outside of Kamloops that maybe wants to start a men's shed, these people this is what they do. They like to go around and sowing seeds of men's sheds all over the place. So with that, I'd like to thank you for joining us. And until next time, my name is Rita Wiebe.
Thanks, Rita.
Thanks, Rita.